things like the Lemurian Mystery School with Liana Shanti, an online figure at the moment with a very prolific following, who says we should cleanse and we should use coffee enemas and we should listen to my tracks on repeat. And if we do these things, we can overcome ailments. And if we speak to each other in certain ways, we can identify childhood abuse and overcome it by accessing my courses on recovering from certain things. Most of which I imagine most of the time professionals would look at those documents and say, this is absolutely not what we should be doing. If an individual has an eating disorder, or if an individual has psychological or mental health issues that need to be addressed by a professional, I don't think the approaches that are being used in certain online circles would be beneficial to the individuals that are accessing them.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It seems like alienation is such a huge component to both keeping people in these and even attracting outside members to groups like these, where you're looking for some kind of a sense of belonging. I mean, we see it with Reddit and 4chan and 8kun and places like this, where it attracts all sorts of people who are, I mean, I'm thinking of like incel culture, if you will, even just attracting these people who are feeling alienated, and all of a sudden they've got 10 other people that they're talking to that surprisingly feel the same thing.
Yeah.
Oh, there was that enormous kerfuffle that occurred among the incel community a few months ago because one of the most prolific members of the community revealed that he had sex. And immediately he was attacked by everybody because he abandoned them. And
Yeah, I think that's the difficulties with understanding online spaces and how individuals can become radicalized in certain ways or enter somewhat dangerous or unconventional spaces. Because if you have some kind of interest, or if you have questions to some strange subject, or if you have maybe a really unheard of kink of some type, there is a space that exists now for you to find the answers or the community that will allow you to feel accepted, as you've said, Jules. And then with the community stuff that you mentioned, Sean, if you finally found a place where you could speak openly, or where people could give you the answers to all of these questions you've had, if something small happens that you don't necessarily agree with, can you forego really thinking about that and wondering how it really sits with you? Or do you walk away from that community? And once that line is crossed, there is often a continuance of things that happen, and bigger things that happen, and bigger things that happen. And not always the line is crossed. Sometimes individuals aren't given access to information that they would need to make a critical decision by design a lot of the time, with groups like Shinchunji that are very kind of cloak and dagger about their recruitment tactics. But what we see with a lot of online spaces are things like Pizzagate, where you go from talking about something to somebody actually going to a restaurant to look for kids in a basement where there is no basement in that restaurant. And so sometimes you see this turn into offline harm, which is what a lot of the worries are in the cult awareness space at the moment. And interestingly, Sean, you mentioned John Atack earlier, and I'm going to be meeting with him in a couple of weeks to do another recording for his YouTube channel, where we are going to be specifically focusing on the difficulties of online spaces and things like the Jordan Peterson effect. And I know that you've done an episode on
Quite a few.
where are the real men, and I saw that title of that episode and I was like, Oh no, I can't. I don't know if I can speak to Jules and Sean if that. And then I realised that it was, not actually how you thought about the subject.
So my sort of tongue-in-cheek episode titling has come to has bit us a couple of times. We've managed to receive some following and some attention from people who think that we're actually encouraging these topics or we're in favor of them, and then getting
a surprising number of crypto bros.
Getting incredibly disappointed and vocal sometimes with us in direct messages about how sad they are that we've let down this cause.
Yeah, I think you always want to be careful and do due diligence on individuals that you speak with and share your stories with. If I was to go on to a podcast and find out that the individuals I was speaking with were anti-LGBT, for example, that's not a podcast that I want to be associated with in any way.
Yeah.
Because it's completely in conflict with my own ideals and beliefs and the mission statement that I have for my podcast. So I saw the title of that episode and I was like, and then I listened to the episode and realized that it was kind of clickbaity. So kudos for that.
Oh, I don't know what's worse, is that we're actually like Josh Hawley followers, or we're just clickbaiting. You've been listening to a sample of a Wet Wired Premium episode. To listen to this entire episode and to hear our entire back catalog, you can subscribe on Patreon for just $5 a month. We also have a limited number of $3 a month True Believer memberships, but when those run out, they are gone. Thank you for helping us keep Wet Wired editorially independent and ad-free.